Good afternoon. It's August the 18th, 2021. We're in the last days, I guess, of summer, and school, if it hasn't started already where you are, is going to be starting up soon. It is hot here in suburban Philadelphia. Probably better to say it's steamy. The relative humidity is pretty high. We may be experiencing some of Tropical Storm Fred later in the afternoon or evening. In the meantime, it just feels like a steam bath here. But I'm thankful to be able to be outside and bring episode 38 of Getting Back to Conversation to you today. So let me start out by asking, have you ever come up against a situation and after a quick evaluation, you figured that it just wasn't worth the effort to engage? Maybe you encounter an angry exchange between two co-workers and you ask yourself if or should you involve yourself. You observe two friends. You have a post where you can see a conversation, and you see that one of them is doing things and saying things that are doing harm to the relationship. You can see it clearly, and it bothers you to see this friendship collapsing. Or perhaps it's one of your own friendships, and it's been in the process of unraveling for months or even perhaps for years. And in the quietness of your own soul, you ask yourself whether you have the strength or the energy to address the decline of the relationship. Or you see a friend post something that is hateful or rude or vile on Facebook. What, if anything, do you do or say? Now, maybe you have no difficulty being confrontational. You see wrong, you see error, you see someone hurting someone else, and you have no difficulty stepping in. You're going to have a word with the offending party. You're willing to dive in and let the chips fall where they may. But maybe you're more like me, and more often than not, you talk yourself out of any engagement in the situation. There are all kinds of reasons, excuses that you could offer not to say or do anything. Now, I'm in the process in the last few episodes of exploring the reasons why we don't have difficult conversations. Could be fear that prompts us to keep our heads down and our mouths shut. It could be that we've done some mental calculations, and as we discussed last week, we feel it's just not worth the effort. It's a waste of time. And this calculation is based on what we think is the only real goal for a conversation, which is persuasion. You're going to try to change the other person's mind to see things the way that you see them, and you realize that's just not going to happen. It's a waste of time. But today I want to talk about another sort of calculation, and it could be well that there's some fear mixed in the equation. But the basic thing that is keeping you from engagement is a sense that it just isn't worth the effort. Is it too blunt to say that you've done an assessment and you figured out that you don't have the energy, you don't have the stomach, you don't have the courage, or whatever word fills in the blank for you, you don't have that to come off the sidelines, out of the shadows, and into the game? I'm reminded of a scene from the movie Top Gun, not the one that's just coming out, but the one that came out in the 1980s. Lieutenant Pete Mitchell, Maverick, the Tom Cruise character, he had lost Goose, his good friend, Anthony Edwards' character, and his radio intercept officer. They were in Top Gun training, and they had had an incident and the plane went down and the Goose character died. Now Maverick survives a board of inquiry, but his confidence is shattered. He graduates from Top Gun school and is reassigned to the USS Enterprise. Once again, he finds himself in a dogfight. But after an incident that reminds him of the loss of Goose, he disengages. I can hear Merlin, his new RIO, shouting over the intercom, "You've got to engage, Maverick, you've got to engage." And that would be my message to myself and to you. You've got to engage. I want to acknowledge that there are things that make it especially difficult in 2021 to engage in difficult conversations. For one thing, some people are out of practice. Maybe you're out of practice. We've been for many people, in isolation for a year and a half. We've lost our ability. We're not used to it. Yeah, we chat over the internet, but it's not the same as in-person conversations. I would say also because of the environment we're in, and I think a lot of people are dealing with a lot of stuff, people have become rude and abrupt. And computer-mediated communication, primarily social media, has really had a negative effect on the ways that we communicate. Studies have shown that we will do things and say things in cyberspace that we will not do when we are face-to-face with someone. To illustrate the environment in which we live, I'd like to share with you a report. A friend of mine reported that she and her son had stopped at a local convenience store. The sign on the door requested that all people who entered wear a mask. So my friend and her son, who, by the way, had been in and out of the hospital with serious illness over the last several years, both of them complied and wore masks. She went on to report that on the way out of the store, a guy rolled down his window, leaned out, gave them the finger, and told them to, quote, "Wear 2 masks, you blanking idiots," end of quote. She wrote, "I confess to responding. Did you just call a 12-year-old kid a blanking idiot?" But then she wrote, "I should not have engaged." But I want to applaud her for engaging. We all need to engage. We have work to do. And it's hard work. The fabric of our society is ripping apart. The old maxim is, it's easier to curse the darkness than to light a candle. But I want to encourage you. It's time to come off the sidelines. It's time to get in the game. It's time to engage. May we have the wisdom, the courage, the humility, the patience, and the long view that we need to expend the effort to engage. Well, that's it for today's episode. I'd love to hear your comments, questions, thoughts. If you think this is worthwhile, share it with someone else. And I'd remind you that after I post this on Facebook, that shortly thereafter it will be on YouTube, my YouTube channel. Well, that's it for today, folks. I hope that you are doing well. I hope that you are engaging in meaningful, even if they are difficult conversations. Have a great day.